When you look into a mirror, does the mirror test you? Does it judge whether you are worthy of reflection? No, it simply shows you what is presented before it. The mirror has no opinion, no agenda, no purpose other than faithful reflection. So it is with the universe. It is the perfect mirror of your inner state, reflecting back to you with absolute precision the contents of your consciousness. You have been conditioned to believe that the world is something separate from you, something that acts upon you according to laws you cannot understand or control. You have been taught that you must prove yourself worthy, that you must earn your good, that you must pass tests and overcome obstacles placed before you by some external force. This is the great deception that keeps humanity in bondage. This is the lie that prevents you from claiming your divine inheritance. The truth is far more magnificent and far more empowering than you have dared to imagine. You are not a separate being trying to influence a hostile or indifferent universe. You are consciousness itself, expressing as the very universe you perceive. The world you experience is not external to you. It is the outpicturing of your own being, the externalization of your inner states, the faithful reflection of your assumptions about yourself and life. When you understand this principle deeply, truly deeply, you will never again look at your circumstances as something happening to you. You will recognize them as the faithful servants of your consciousness, appearing in your experience to show you exactly what you have been assuming to be true about yourself and your world. Every person in your life, every situation, every challenge, every blessing, all of it is consciousness pushing out from within you, taking form in the world of appearance to mirror back to you the contents of your own mind. But you say, Neville, surely you cannot mean that everything in my experience is my own creation. What about the terrible things that happen? What about injustice? What about suffering? And I say to you that everything without exception is the outpicturing of consciousness. This does not make you responsible for the suffering of others, but it makes you absolutely responsible for your own experience of life. It means that whatever you are experiencing right now is the perfect reflection of your inner assumptions. And more importantly, it means you have the power to change your experience by changing your assumptions. Consider this carefully. If the universe were testing you, then you would be at the mercy of some external judge who decides whether you pass or fail. You would be powerless, waiting for approval from forces beyond your control. But if the universe is reflecting you, then you are the holding the brush that paints your experience. You are the author of your story, the creator of your reality, the operant power in your own life. This shift in understanding changes everything. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You begin to ask, what in me is creating this experience? Instead of trying to change the world, you focus on changing yourself, knowing that as you change within, the world must change without. Instead of fighting against your circumstances, you recognize them as messengers, showing you exactly what you have been assuming to be true. The law of assumption is always operating. You cannot turn it off any more than you can turn off the law of gravity. At every moment, your assumptions about yourself and your world are hardening into facts in your experience. The universe takes your assumptions as commands and works tirelessly to make them manifest in your life. It does not question whether your assumptions are good or bad, positive or negative, true or false. It simply reflects them back to you as your life experience. This is why Jesus said, "It is done unto you as you believe." He was not speaking of belief as intellectual agreement with certain propositions. He was speaking of belief as the deep assumption about reality that operates beneath the level of conscious thought. Your fundamental assumptions about what is possible for you, about who you are, about what you deserve, about how life works, these are the beliefs that the universe reflects back to you as your reality. When you truly understand that the universe is reflecting you rather than testing you, you realize that every moment is an opportunity to change your reflection while changing what you are assuming to be true. You do not need to wait for permission from the world. You do not need to prove yourself worthy. You do not need to pass any tests. You need only assume the truth of what you desire to experience. And the universe must reflect that assumption back to you as your reality. But how do you change your assumptions? How do you alter the deep patterns of thought and feeling that have been creating your current experience? The answer lies in understanding the nature of consciousness itself. Consciousness is not something you have. Consciousness is what you are. You are not a body with consciousness. You are consciousness appearing as a body. You are not a person having experiences. You are the very awareness in which all experiences appear. When you identify yourself with consciousness rather than with the limited person you appear to be, you discover that you have the power to assume any state of being you choose. You are not bound by your past, by your circumstances, by your limitations. These are simply patterns of assumption that can be changed by taking on new assumptions about who you are and what is possible for you. The technique I teach you is beautifully simple. Before you sleep each night, assume that you already are what you desire to be. Do not assume that you will become it someday. Assume that you are it now. Feel what it would feel like if your desire were already fulfilled. Live in that assumption as you drift off to sleep, and let your subconscious mind, which never sleeps, work throughout the night to externalize that assumption in your waking world. This is not mere positive thinking or wishful fantasy. This is the conscious direction of the creative power of consciousness itself. When you assume a state and persist in that assumption, you are not trying to convince the universe to give you what you want. You are recognizing that what you want already exists in consciousness, and you are choosing to identify with it rather than with its absence. The universe is not a testing ground where you must prove your worth. It is a reflecting pool that shows you exactly who you believe yourself to be. When you change your self-concept, when you revise your fundamental assumptions about yourself, the reflection must change. This is law. This is not theory or philosophy. It is the way consciousness operates. Think of it this way. If you are standing before a mirror and you do not like what you see, do you try to change the reflection in the mirror? Of course not. You change yourself and the reflection automatically changes. Similarly, if you do not like your life circumstances, do not waste your energy trying to change the outer world. Change your inner assumptions, and the outer world must conform to your new inner state. This understanding frees you from the exhausting effort of trying to manipulate conditions and circumstances. It frees you from the anxiety of wondering whether you are worthy of your desires. It frees you from the fear that the universe might decide to test you with suffering or lack. The universe has no agenda for you other than to reflect perfectly whatever you assume to be true about yourself and your life. But you must be honest about what you are actually assuming, not what you think you are assuming or what you would like to be assuming. Your assumptions are revealed by your experiences. If you are experiencing lack, you are assuming lack somewhere in your consciousness. If you are experiencing limitation, you are assuming limitation. If you are experiencing love and abundance, you are assuming love and abundance. This is not about blame or judgment. It is about empowerment. When you realize that your experiences are reflecting your assumptions, you gain the power to change your experiences by changing your assumptions. You move from being a victim of circumstances to being the creator of circumstances. The beauty of this understanding is that it makes every moment of your life meaningful. Nothing is random. Nothing is meaningless. Everything is consciousness expressing itself. Everything is the universe showing you the contents of your own mind. Even what appears to be negative or challenging is not punishment or testing. It is consciousness lovingly showing you what you have been assuming so that you can choose to assume something different if you wish. This is the great secret that mystics and sages have known throughout the ages. You are not separate from the universe you experience. You are the universe experiencing itself subjectively. The world is not happening to you, it is happening as you. When you realize this, you stop fighting against life and start collaborating with the creative power of consciousness. But collaboration requires understanding how consciousness works. Consciousness always expresses itself through assumption. Whatever you assume to be true about yourself becomes true in your experience. This is not magic or metaphysics in some esoteric sense. It is the fundamental nature of consciousness itself. Consciousness must express itself, and it expresses itself according to the assumptions it holds about itself. When you assume you are limited, consciousness expresses limitation in your experience. When you assume you are abundant, consciousness expresses abundance. When you assume you are loved, consciousness expresses love through the people and circumstances in your life. When you assume you are alone, consciousness creates experiences of isolation and separation. The universe is not testing whether you deserve love, it is reflecting your assumption about whether you are lovable. The universe is not testing whether you deserve success, it is reflecting your assumption about whether you are successful. The universe is not testing whether you deserve happiness, it is reflecting your assumption about whether you are happy. This means that changing your life is not about convincing the universe to treat you differently. It is about assuming differently about yourself so that the universe has something different to reflect. The universe cannot reflect what you do not assume to be true about yourself. It can only reflect what is active in your consciousness as a living assumption. This is why affirmations alone often fail to produce results. If you affirm I am wealthy while deeply assuming you are poor, the universe reflects your deeper assumption, not your self-affirmation. The universe responds to what you actually believe about yourself, not to what you say you believe or what you wish you believed. To change your reflection, you must change at the level of assumption. You must begin to assume, to take for granted, to accept as natural and inevitable the truth of what you desire to experience. You must live in the assumption of your wish fulfilled until that assumption becomes the natural state of your consciousness. This requires what I call a revision of your self-concept. Your self-concept is the sum total of all your assumptions about who you are, what you are capable of, what you deserve, what is possible for you. It is the filter through which consciousness expresses itself in your particular experience. Change your self-concept, and you change your world. But how do you revise your self-concept? How do you take on new assumptions about yourself? The answer is through the disciplined use of imagination. Imagination is not escapism or fantasy, it is the creative power of consciousness itself. When you imagine yourself to be other than what you appear to be, when you feel what it would be like to have your desire fulfilled, you are not pretending. You are exercising the fundamental power of consciousness to assume states of being. Night after night, as you prepare for sleep, imagine yourself to be the person you want to be. Feel what it feels like to be that person. See yourself living the life you want to live. Hear the conversations you would have. Feel the emotions you would feel. Experience the reality you want to create. Do this not as a technique to get something, but as an acknowledgement of what you already are in consciousness. Remember, consciousness is the only reality. The physical world is consciousness made visible. When you change your assumptions in consciousness, you change what consciousness has available to express as your physical experience. The universe must reflect your new assumptions because reflection is its nature. It has no choice in the matter. This is not about deserving or earning or being tested. This is about assuming and reflecting. The universe is a perfect mirror that must show you what you are assuming to be true about yourself. Change your assumptions, and you change your reflection. Persist in new assumptions, and they harden into facts in your experience. But persistence requires faith, and faith is not blind belief in something you hope might happen. Faith is the confidence that comes from understanding how consciousness works. When you know that the universe must reflect your assumptions, you have faith in your ability to create the life you desire by assuming the truth of that life. The universe is not withholding your good until you prove yourself worthy. Your good exists right now in consciousness, waiting for you to assume it as your own. The universe is not testing your patience, or your strength, or your character. It is reflecting whatever you are assuming about patience, strength. If you assume that good things come to those who wait, the universe reflects delay. If you assume that you must struggle for everything you get, the universe reflects struggle. If you assume that life is hard and then you die, the universe reflects hardship and limitation. But if you assume that you are blessed, that life supports you, that your desires are natural and inevitable, the universe reflects that assumption as your lived experience. This understanding transforms your relationship with desire itself. Desire is not something to be ashamed of or something that proves you are lacking. Desire is consciousness indicating what it wants to express through you. When you desire something, consciousness is telling you that this thing already exists in the realm of possibility and is seeking to manifest through your experience. The universe places desires in your heart not to torture you with wanting what you cannot have, but to inform you of what consciousness wants to express as your reality. Your desires are not random, they are the universe's way of communicating with you about what it wants to create through your life. When you realize this, you stop fighting against your desires and start assuming their fulfillment. You recognize that the desire itself is evidence that what you want already exists in consciousness and is seeking to manifest in your experience. The universe that gave you the desire is the same universe that will reflect its fulfillment when you assume that fulfillment as your natural state. This is the great reversal of understanding that changes everything. Instead of seeing the universe as separate from you, testing you, judging you, deciding whether to grant your request, you see the universe as your own consciousness made visible, faithfully reflecting your assumptions back to you as your experience of life. When you live from this understanding, every day becomes an opportunity to consciously choose what you want the universe to reflect. Instead of reacting to circumstances as if they were imposed upon you from outside, you recognize them as reflections of your inner state and use them as feedback to guide your assumptions. If you see lack in your life, you know that somewhere in your consciousness you are assuming lack. If you see love in your life, you know you are assuming love. If you see opportunity, you are assuming opportunity. If you see limitation, you are assuming limitation. The universe is simply being faithful to its nature as the perfect mirror of consciousness. This makes you the author of your own experience in the most literal sense. Every assumption you hold about yourself and your world is a word you speak into the universe, and the universe must speak that word back to you as your reality. You cannot speak words of lack and have the universe respond with abundance. You cannot assume limitation and have the universe reflect unlimited possibility. But you can change your assumptions. You can revise your self-concept. You can choose what you want the universe to reflect back to you. This is your divine inheritance as consciousness itself. This is your power as the operant force in your own experience. The universe is not testing you to see if you are worthy of love. It is waiting for you to assume that you are lovable so it can reflect love back to you through every person and situation in your life. The universe is not testing you to see if you deserve abundance. It is waiting for you to assume abundance so it can reflect prosperity in all its forms. This is why Jesus said, "Whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive." He was not talking about asking an external God for favors. He was talking about assuming the truth of what you desire and letting consciousness reflect that assumption as your reality. The asking is the assuming, the believing is the persistence in that assumption, and the receiving is the inevitable reflection of what you have assumed to be true. The universe is not your judge, it is your servant. It exists to reflect perfectly whatever you assume to be true about yourself and your life. It has no agenda other than faithful reflection. It does not decide whether you deserve what you desire. It simply gives you the experience of whatever you assume to be true. This understanding eliminates the need for worthiness, for earning, for proving yourself. The universe does not require you to be worthy any more than a mirror requires you to be worthy of reflection. You simply need to present yourself before the mirror of consciousness with the assumptions you want reflected, and reflection is automatic. But you must be the one to change your assumptions. The universe cannot assume for you. It can only reflect what you assume. If you continue to assume the same things about yourself and your life, the universe must continue to reflect the same experiences. If you want different experiences, you must assume different things. This is both the simplest and the most challenging aspect of conscious creation. It is simple because all you need to do is assume what you want to be true and persist in that assumption. It is challenging because it requires you to take complete responsibility for your experience and to stop looking outside yourself for the source of your circumstances. When you truly understand that the universe is reflecting you rather than testing you, you stop being a victim of circumstances and become the conscious creator of your experience. You stop waiting for the world to change and start changing your assumptions about the world. You stop asking why things are happening to you and start choosing what you want to have happen as you. This is the great awakening, the realization that you are not separate from the universe you experience, but are the very consciousness through which the universe knows itself. The world is not external to you, it is the externalization of your own inner states. The people in your life are not separate beings acting independently. They are consciousness appearing in forms that reflect your assumptions about yourself and others. When you know this, really know it, not just intellectually, but as the living truth of your being, you are free. Free from the need to prove yourself. Free from the fear of being tested. Free from the anxiety of wondering whether you are worthy of your desires. You are free to assume whatever you choose to be true about yourself and your life, knowing that the universe must reflect those assumptions as your lived experience. This is not theory. This is not philosophy. This is the way consciousness works. This is the law of your being. The universe is reflecting you right now, showing you exactly what you have been assuming about yourself and your life. If you want to see something different in the mirror of your experience, you must assume something different about yourself. The power is yours. The choice is yours. The universe is waiting, ready to reflect whatever you choose to assume about yourself and your reality. It has no preferences, no judgments, no tests to administer. It simply reflects faithfully and perfectly the contents of your consciousness. What will you choose to assume? What do you want to see reflected in your experience? The universe stands ready to mirror it all back to you, for this is its nature, its purpose, its joy to be the perfect reflection of the infinite creative power that you are.